Good evening. Today I'm here to give you our sort of a company recommendation on what to watch around Halloween. For us, it's a hassle every year to find something new and compelling, and of course fear is very personal. Now mind you, this list is not like the top 10 scariest movies of all time. There are a lot of classics that are completely missing from this list. It is just something we revisit every Halloween ourselves, and you might enjoy as well. Me, as a horror movie fan, this is what I would expect. In no particular order, here's our recommendations, as you will. First on the list, The Autopsy of Jane Doe. The name of the movie is derived from something they call unidentified deceased females found in the United States, and for what it is, I feel the movie is completely underrated. A father-son team of small-town coroners performs an autopsy on an unidentified woman with mysterious injuries and a terrifying secret. That's the official logline, and it sounds more like a murder thriller, but it's anything but. The mystery aspect, as it is unfolding around that one nameless corpse in a confined space of a morgue, is quite good without any stupid jump scares, an overcomplicated plot, pointlessly witty remarks, or anything strenuous. Stephen King's It. Going for a contemporary classic, Stephen King's It was recommended to me as a good tie-in for liking Stranger Things too much, and giving form to childhood fears manifesting in different ways. Compared to the version with Tim Curry, the contemporary one feels much better, and Bill Skarsgård nailed the role as Pennywise the Dancing Clown. Indeed, there is a certain je ne sais quoi that gives it a good comeback vibe around Halloween. Just wish the sequel could have expanded these notions a little better than it did. Moving on to one of my favorites, John Carpenter's The Thing from 1982. There are a lot of movies out there, so I do not feel particularly bad about this, but The Thing is something I experienced backwards actually. Playing the video game on the original Xbox first, and intrigued by the setting, looking up the movie. Overall, the sense of paranoia and realistic special effects is what makes it stand out as a staple of body horror to this day. And reading about the movie, it is so weird to think that the general reception was actually fairly average upon release, and it took a while to catch on. 1408. Just for the sake of variety, I would recommend this movie as the main antagonist is, and I quote, an evil fucking room. The way any given space can have a personal manifest destiny and impose a sadistic will upon its occupants was unique, but it also told us the history of all the bad things to ever happen between those walls, using that cruelty as a storytelling medium. With a small but solid cast including Samuel L. Jackson and John Cusack, it was the right amount of satirical and horrifying. Talk about being backed into a corner with this one. The Haunting of Hill House. Admittedly, as a fan of Mike Flanagan's work, nothing like Midnight Mass, The Haunting of Bly Manor, or Fall of the House of Usher, while a close second favorite here, will compare to The Haunting of Hill House that was absolutely thrilling to watch for the first time, and rightfully has widespread acclaim for its innovative approach to horror and emotional storytelling, not to mention technical perfection, where almost every frame of film has meaning. A true modern classic. And getting to the really good stuff, Aliens. A staple of science fiction horror, the critically acclaimed 1986 sequel to Alien may not have been as novel as the first movie, but with creature effects and a compelling continuation of the story, it is probably my absolute favorite to behold and a go-to thing to watch around Halloween and Christmas, mostly because it expanded the xenomorph threat in a meaningful way. Given how many obstacles there were in making it, I am just glad this movie came to light, because the world would be a poorer place without it. It's genuinely thrilling and exciting, and comes from a time when we were still afraid of monsters, and the monsters in our minds were given shape by James Cameron. Tremors. It has been ages since I watched this myself, but holy Hannah, how that thing scared me as a child. And this is something you will either love or hate, with no middle ground. Getting out of the house to walk on solid soil for something trivial like strawberries felt like an unnecessary risk as a kid. Challenged by imagining in every step that there is something that could potentially jump out of the ground to swallow me whole. But even now, you have to have something to make yourselves laugh a little at yourself. Am I right? Anyway, Ron Underwood was the king of his time for sure. Dawn of the Dead. I actually had Del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities at this place due to a good variety of storytelling where you could find at least one episode to make you queasy, but decided that I could not forgive myself if there wasn't a solid zombie undead flick on this list. So, Dawn of the Dead. While there are many worthwhile things out there like 28 Days Later, The Walking Dead even, Quarantine scared the crap out of me, and Night of the Living Dead, and others depending on your choice of zombie abilities, I chose Dawn of the Dead from 2004. This one stuck with me for no apparent reason, but it is easy to watch with a good cast and is just the right amount of gripping to still be considered in part family friendly.
No matter how busy you ever go, you always...
Evil Dead Rise. I know what most would say about this. In a puristic form of love for the Ash vs. Evil Dead universe, I might have just listed the short-lived series, which was actually quite entertaining, or stuck to basics with the originals. But as a continuation of the adventures of the Necronomicon, I am just as surprised as anyone that Evil Dead Rise totally holds up, and they did not cock it up. Nothing like a good massacre from Lee Cronin, and the most serious and demented approach in the franchise to date.
Something horrible happening in my house.
Last but not least, Conjuring. I will just slot the first and second movie in as one and leave the nun and the rest just below the wire. But I have found the real-life tale of the Warrens always to be quite fascinating. And thinking a lot on the whole juxtaposition of the Catholic Church and demonology in general. The fact that there are a lot of real-life accounts tied into making these movies, it adds a level of realism that I sometimes find compelling. Not to mention the particular camera work that makes you feel like you are just right there. So if you have any recommendations of your own for modern audiences about horror movies they definitely should have watched in the last 50 years or so, leave your favorites in the comments. Thank you and have a spooky night. Hope it helps.